Hi guys! Today I'm gonna share a super simple recipe with you. It's a recipe that I've been wanting to share a long time ago. It's something that I make very often. It's not the traditional crepes recipe because, to be honest, I don't even know the traditional French recipe. I've never made them that way and I've always made them this way. So my recipe is parts from how my grandmother used to make them, how my mom used to make them and still makes them, and something from me. So it's kind of a combination of what I learned from my mom and my grandmother and a little touch from myself. This is the base recipe. In the video and also in the recipe you will find exact measures, but I would like to mention to you that you want to pay attention to the consistencies because there's many things that you can substitute in the recipe, and whenever you substitute something you really want to watch the consistencies so that you get the same results. So pay attention to those in the video and you'll do great. I have my eggs here. I have doubled the recipe, so if you want to make less, just use half like in the recipe. So don't wonder why I have so much. So here I have 10 eggs and I'm just gonna shortly beat them. Just until the structure kind of breaks. And then I usually never measure the flour. So I just add in until I have the perfect kind of consistency. So depending on the size of your eggs, and so it can be a little bit more. So I'm gonna show you how it should look like. This is a really simple recipe, but I never measure it, so I just make it kind of eye measures, but I'm still gonna measure it. But as I said, you should really pay attention to the structure, to how the mix looks like, and then you don't really need to worry about the measures. So I'm just adding in flour. And mixing it in. So what we are trying to achieve is a really thick mix so that we have no lumps, because now it's really hard to mix everything. There is a lot of egg and so we have a lot of lumps, but we are already getting there. So it's almost right. So at this point you will notice that it's easier to, well, not easier to mix because you need quite a bit of strength, but it's easier to mix it so that there are no lumps. So just mix it really, like almost beat it. And this is what you're looking for. So the consistency should be like this. You should be able to mix the flour so that you have practically no lumps. There are some little bits there, but that's not a problem. And this is how the batter should look like once you've added all of the flour to it. And then at this point we are going to start adding in the liquids. So I'm using kefir for this. It's a sour milk product. You can use buttermilk instead. You can use a combination of yogurt with milk. I wouldn't use just milk because, well, it just doesn't taste the same. So I'm gonna add in some tips for you in the recipe how to substitute the kefir. And you just want to add in the liquid little by little, kind of mixing it in. Here again, we are paying attention to the consistency of the batter. So that's why you want to add little by little. It's really thick now, as you can see. So I'm going to continue adding in some more. For the 5 eggs, I usually use 500 milliliters of kefir, and then I just check the consistency, and usually I just add in a little bit of milk if needed to get it right. So now it's getting there, and we're just gonna add in about a pinch of salt. So for me that was about 2 pinches. As I said, I'm doubling the recipe. So now you can remove the whisk because the batter is nice and smooth. And for the final test, you will need a ladle. So just mix through the batter and check. So when I mix it like this, it feels really thick. So it has, it's not that easy for me to mix it. And also when I pour it, I can see it's pretty thick. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna add in a little bit of milk. Here it's not a problem if it's a little bit thicker. You can also test the first pancake and then or the first crepe, and then you can add in more liquid as needed. I'm just adding in, I think, about 200 grams or 200 milliliters. As I said, I never really measure, I just check how it looks. So now it's much easier for me to kind of mix through, so there's not as much resistance as before I added the milk. And also you can see it's much runnier, so it runs down the ladle really easily, and that's how I like my batter. If it's gonna be too thick, that's not a problem. As I said, you can still make it thinner by adding a little bit of that milk at a later point. Or if you notice when you start frying that the pancakes, they just kind of break, or you cannot really turn them around, then the problem can also be that it's too thin. And then you can just whisk in a little bit more flour. So you can always save the batter also at a later point. You want your pan on medium-high heat, and once it's warm, you want to add in a little bit of vegetable oil. And then you want to take a ladleful of the batter and just allow it to spread over your pan. You would also want to prep a plate so you can remove the pancakes or the crepes easily onto a plate. And now we're just watching until it's cooked through. So you can see here it's already cooked through. There it's still raw. So we are just going to allow it some time. And you want to keep the heat on medium high. If you notice that they cook through too fast, then just remove or reduce the heat just a little. So now that the top is not raw anymore, I'm just gonna check how it's looking from the bottom. So it's looking nice. It has some nice color, but I like mine a little bit darker, so I'm just gonna give it a little bit more time to get some color. And then I'm just gonna flip it around. So I could have cooked it a little bit longer, but it has some beautiful color already. And yes, I use a spatula to flip my pancakes. I'm not good at flipping them in the air, so I hope you don't mind that. They're still really delicious. So then you just want to give it a little bit of time so the other side cooks really fast. So you just want to give it just a tiny bit of time to get color from the other side as well. So I would say about half a minute or so. So then just check the other side. Still needs a little bit of time. And this is also how I see that my batter is perfect, because I got really thin crepes. So you can see they're really thin. They are not breaking. The batter spreads evenly, beautifully over my pan. So that's all of the kind of tips that you get from the first crepe when you fry it. So if it goes like this, then your batter is perfect. So just gonna check, looks beautiful, and then you just remove it onto your plate. And again, paying attention to this side. So there's only one spot where I can see it's still raw. So I'm gonna check now. Still quite light. I think my pan is too, the heat is low. So I've just turned the heat up a little bit because they should cook through much faster. So the color is still really light. So I've just turned up the heat. So now I'm gonna check again, just carefully. So now it's a beautiful color. I'm gonna flip it around and give it some time on the other side as well. And this is what I'm looking for on the other side. And I'm just gonna remove it. So just gonna show you one more. So now I have the heat up a little bit so that they cook through faster. So it's kind of a fine line. You don't want them to burn, but you want to cook them fast because otherwise you're gonna spend the whole day frying your crepes. So just play around with the heat and you will see how your pan and your hob works. So flipping it over, and then again you give it a little bit of time to kind of get color on the other side as well. And let's check. So it has some beautiful color. I'm just gonna give it another couple of, not minutes, but seconds to just catch a little bit more color. And I never add any sugar to my recipe because I like to have an option to enjoy these with both a sweet and a savory filling. So if you like to add a little bit of sugar, you can always add a little sugar to the batter. So let's check. It's also got some nice color on this side. So I'm gonna remove it, and that's what you want to do with the rest of your batter. So just keep on frying until you've used up everything. I hope you enjoyed this really quick and easy recipe, really simple recipe for crepes, and I hope you will be trying it out. This recipe is the base recipe, so you can then top up your crepes with whatever you like. Or I have two other recipes coming, so this is kind of a set of 3. So I have another 2 recipes that are coming very soon, and they are for stuffed crepes. One is gonna be for a savory recipe, and the other one is for a sweet one. So stay tuned for those. If you like this recipe and if you like the tutorial, don't forget that thumbs up so I also know you enjoyed it. And if you're new to my channel, then you can subscribe right now, and if you tap the bell, you won't miss any of my new videos. Thank you for watching my video. Bye bye until next time.